Hello, Landrum Lions. Today we're going to be learning about finding credible news. Our essential question is, how do we find credible information on the internet? Our three learning objectives are, first, let's learn reasons that people put false or misleading information on the internet. Second, let's learn criteria for differentiating fake news from credible news. And third, let's practice evaluating the credibility of information you find on the internet. So this is our first observation. It is called corn. That's a buccaneer. Oscar Wilde on food price inflation. Corn is a dangerous fruit that grows on a corn tree. It is arguably the deadliest fruit on earth, but many are unaware and gulp it down each year. The fruit itself comprises the following parts: a hard core made of dense organic matter. It is inedible. I have tried. However, dogs regard it as equivalent to meat. So looking at this, do you think this is fake news or credible news? Now tell me why you think that. So looking at this, let's first define credible, which means able to be believed or trustworthy. If I come back here, do I see who posted this article? Do I see a date? Do I see facts? The answers to all of these are no. So looking at this, I can also tell you that I know corn is not a fruit. So that first sentence already lets me know this is fake news. Somebody created this and it is not true. So I know that it is not credible. It is not trustworthy because it's not true. Why might information you find on the internet not be true? There could be three different types of reasons. The first one is editorials. These are articles or blogs that are meant to persuade the reader of the author's opinion and which may include bias or leave out important facts. The second type is satire. These are websites or articles that are meant to be funny by making fun of a subject and which often include statements that are untrue. And there could be hoax. Articles that are meant to fool the reader into believing something that isn't true by trying to be as realistic as possible. The first thing that you need to do is evaluate. So you need to carefully examine something to figure out its value. Then we need to check the bias, which means having preference for one thing over another in a way that's unfair. And we need to corroborate, which means an additional source that confirms or supports a news, story, article, or piece of information. So let's go ahead and test this out. We are going to carefully read the article, then we're going to analyze the source, and we're going to look for some corroboration. So let's go ahead and open up the article to read it. So looking at the first one of analyzing the first one is to read closely, but it's actually easier to look at analyzing the source first. I can immediately see which article it's coming from. If I wanted to, I could open that up and search for Vox to see what they are and who they are. I can also see that it has an author and the date and time that it was posted. So now let's go ahead and start reading. The case for allowing 16-year-olds to vote. A measure in San Francisco proposes lowering the voting age to 16. Should other sites do the same? 2 years ago on election night, Oliver York, then a 15-year-old sophomore at Lick Wilmerding High School in San Francisco, sat at home brooding. More than half of all the San Francisco ballot measures directly affected young people like me, he recalls, but we had no say. York decided to try to change that. He solicited the help of San Francisco Youth Commission, a body of young leaders who advise city officials on youth issues. He organized meetings with the city school board, local officials, and state senators. And by January 2015, he'd launched a full-fledged campaign to fight for youth voter rights. Now looking at this information, they give us a date and they tell us exactly where it's at. So if we truly wanted to, we could open up a new tab and start searching. Let's see if this is a true story or not. 2 years later, York's efforts have resulted in Proposition F, an initiative that calls to lower the voting age to 16 for local elections. It's been endorsed by the likes of Congress member Nancy Pelosi, State Senator Mark Leno, and the San Francisco School Board, and a recent poll indicated it has earned the support of 49% of voters. It needs 51% to win. Now right here, they list something that came about. So Proposition F could be another thing that I open up a tab for and Google to see if there are other places talking about this, to see if this is true. If the bill passes, it will make San Francisco the first major city in the United States to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote in local elections, and chances are it would increase civic engagement among a demographic that is fully capable of choosing who ought to represent them. Youth voter turnout is at an all-time low. Before we touch on the rationale of lowering the voting age to 16 for local elections, it is important to step back and take a look at the current climate of civic engagement among young voters in the United States. Let's continue. The 2014 midterm election saw the lowest turnout rate ever recorded. A mere 19.9% of 18 to 29-year-olds voted. Even worse, only 46.7% of these voters registered. The lowest figure since the 26th Amendment was passed in 1971, lowering the voting age from 21 to 18. So again, they try and give me more facts here, and I can easily open up a new tab and figure out, was that really the lowest voting year? Was there really the lowest out of the 26th Amendment since it was passed in 1971? So if I wanted to, I would continue reading the rest of this. Just scanning through, I can see that there is some data and it tells me where it's coming from. So I would look up University of Wisconsin to see, are they a credible source? Are they somebody who focuses on facts, or are they just making them up? And we would continue reading to try and make sure that all of these things are true. And they give us more data. We can look at who gave us that, and we see different dates and different ages. We're easily able to open up a new window or a new tab to search to see if there are others saying the same thing, which means that they are corroborating the story, and this is not made up. So the first thing that we needed to do was read closely, and if we had time, I would have you go through all of this and read it all. The next thing would be analyzing the source. This is where I was looking at the different pictures and data to see, is there something that is cited, or they tell me where they got these numbers from. I also went up to the very top and showed you that it showed me the author. I could Google who Zachary Crockett is, the date that it was put out, and then the place that put it out, which magazine or representation is putting this out. And then the last thing that we would do is look for corroboration. So if I truly wanted to, I could open up a new window and start searching for this information to see if it was true. So how credible is it? Fake news. This is information that is very surprising, even unbelievable. A website is biased or is not part of a credible news, academic, or governmental organization. The author's bio or previous articles show a bias on the issue, and key points cannot be corroborated by other credible sites. So that means somebody's making it up, or somebody is trying to make others believe their side of the story. The next piece is questionable. Information may be surprising, but it's not unbelievable. Website is not part of a credible news, academic, or governmental organization. Author's bio or previous articles may show bias, or the article is an editorial or opinion piece. Most key points can be corroborated. And so this is where it starts getting kind of questionable, kind of iffy. We think that could be true, but we're not exactly 100% sure. The type of news that we do want is credible news. So information may or may not be surprising, but it makes sense. The website is part of a credible news, academic, or governmental organization. The author has no clear bias on the issue. An article is not an editorial or opinion piece. All key points can be corroborated by other credible sites. So we want credible news that is factual and it is true. They are not trying to convince us to go to one side or the other side. And the reason that we want to know this is because we are critical thinkers and creators. So now in It's Learning, you have 2 assignments. Make sure that you complete both assignments so that you can get your attendance for today.